I'm Shivsy.
And I'm Nats, and together we are the Sisterhood Circle Podcast.
Our vision is to create connections with our community and inspire change in the world.
So be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to find out more.
So let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 5 of our podcast. I can't believe that we're here already.
It's absolutely flown in, man, hasn't it?
How much of a buzz has it been?
So
Honestly, I'm having the best time ever.
it's a pure buzz.
We were so nervous about getting started with this, and now I'm like, right, can I come to the studio every week?
You're like, so do you want to do this every single week?
Every single week. But no, it's been brilliant, and so far it's just been great to see how much support we've had from the community.
The response has honestly been amazing, from followers to messages to likes. It's just been so nice to see such a great support at an early on stage.
Yeah,
it's only the beginning.
Fantastic. So I want to just dive into this week's topic. So our topic this week is why women need to be strong, but also why we need to be connected. And I would say it's something that both you and I are wildly passionate about. Yeah.
It's huge. I think it's something that doesn't ever really get talked about. I think as women, it gets talked about when it comes to results and all that kind of stuff, but they never really look at the importance of what being strong does for you, and the importance of actually just being connected in groups of women that have got your absolute back, and what that does for your physical health and your mental health as well.
Of course. And I think when we talk about strength, especially within the fitness community, we're thinking about what our bodies are doing, but I'm really, really glad that you touched on there about mental health as well, because strength isn't just about your muscles. It's massively about your muscles, by the way, but
the mental resilience that comes from strength training as well is huge. I think it's something that people don't really notice the change until you maybe point it out to them.
Yeah.
That they're like, actually, see, since I started doing that is where everything's felt a little bit easier, or I've really had that mental strength to deal with it really challenging stuff, because it's not always that life gets easier. It's just that you get a wee bit stronger to be able to cope and deal with it, which I think is so important.
100%. So I want to talk about muscle mass, and I want to talk about longevity and why that is so vitally important.
It's huge. See, when it comes to strength training, for actually being able to build your own muscle and the benefits that come from that at that point in your life, but also when you're then starting to age, having more muscle and the benefits that come from that are absolutely massive for you.
Yeah, so as a young girl, you're coming up and you've got a decent amount of muscle mass in most cases. Yeah, you've got a decent amount of muscle mass. And what I would say personally for myself is, one morning I just woke up and I had cellulite in my arse, right? I did. It just one day, it just was like, what the hell? Where did you come from, right? And I never really thought about it, but it was probably my early 30s that I really started noticing it. And don't get me wrong, it's not my favourite thing in the world, but you do learn to love it. But it really got me thinking about what's happening with my body that I woke up with that in March. Yeah. How did that happen? With no changing too much when it came to my diet or when it came to my movement or anything like that. What's happening?
What's going on? I'm liking that.
Exactly. So as a direct result of my ripple appearing in my ass, I was like, what is this? Why is this happening? And you usually see roughly around the age of 30 to 35, if you are not being consistent with probably the amount of protein that you're eating, your strength training, you're seeing a rise of about 1% increase in muscle mass every single year on year.
1% drop.
Oh yeah. Increase. Oh no. Not muscle mass. Shit. No, body fat increase.
Right. Okay.
Body fat increase. Oh, did I just drop the S-bomb as well? Here we go.
Second one. See, there's 5 though. It's all right. It's okay. With that, so we can.
So you're seeing, an increase of roughly about 1% body fat every single year on year. Yeah. So from the ages of say 30 to 40. If you're a woman and you're seeing a big change in your body shape and you're maybe not preserving your muscle mass by consuming enough protein and doing strength training on a regular basis, there's probably going to be some significant work that we need to do, yeah.
And if you go, if that's what's happening in your 30s to your early 40s and you're not dealing with that, no wonder there's so many challenges that start to arise in your mid-40s when you've got some hormonal changes that are already starting to happen at that point, and the aches, the pains, the lack of mobility, the lack of strength that then comes because we've just not got that awareness in our 30s of what's actually going on in our body.
Yeah, definitely. So with that being said, we're talking about body fat starting to increase naturally as we get older. It's just part of being a woman. We are naturally more fatty than what men are. I was actually chatting about this in the hairdressers this morning.
Yeah.
And we're naturally more fatty than men are. But as we get a wee bit older, we can also see that decline in our muscle mass.
Huge.
And if we're starting to reduce the amount of muscle that is in our body, the chances of aches and pains becoming more aware of aches and pains.
Massive. Because if you look at it, it's likely over the age of 30, if you're not strength training, you can lose up to 1% of your muscle mass every single year.
Yeah.
If you're in a position that you've not strength trained at all in your 30s, your body's then get 10% less muscle than what it had. So you're 10% less in strength.
Yeah.
So what pressure is that going to put on your joints? What pressure is that going to put on your day-to-day tasks? So you can really see why some people get to a point that there is such a struggle, because there's not really been that understanding or that real education surrounding, right, this is how important strength training is.
Yeah.
I think the buzzwords in the fitness industry are always like fat loss and those side of things that we've covered in previous podcasts. But see if the buzzword is actually strength and what you're going to get from that, the real change happens as soon as you start to flick that switch for it's not just about those numbers, it's about your quality of life.
Oh my God. And I think like one of those things like that we see day in and day out in curves is people really like their health improving.
Yes.
I think like if you think about wee Margaret from Irvine, right? Absolutely amazing. I don't know if I'm allowed to use her surname, but Margaret, if you're listening, you know who you are.
That was exactly who she is.
Yeah, she was told she had to go for a knee replacement until she started strength training at curves. Now Margaret's what, in her late 60s, maybe early 60s.
I'm going to say early 70s.
Shut up.
No, I'm really confident when I say that. And she joined us at the point that she'd been to the doctors.
Okay.
And it was that she was to go for a knee replacement, but the waiting list was how long's a bit of string. And she knew that she needed to do something and she wanted to try a bit of movement. She came in not thinking she was going to be able to do any lower body machines.
Yeah.
Modified a few things. And honestly, see if you fast forward 12 months on that journey, we sat down at a table after a review. Our doctor was like, you no longer need to get your knee replacement. Like your muscle was improving, your strength is getting so much better, your mobility is transformed, and she's honestly like a different wee woman.
And
She comes in on a Monday and she's like, I can never pronounce this one right. I always want to say carvery, like a Sunday rose, cabaret.
No, it's a cavity. It's like a...
Like, I did that. So
No,
that's
it's no shop.
Sunday. She goes to the bowling club, like the house called the Carvery, right? And she's like, yeah, it's not the Carvery. So she goes there, sorry.
I genuinely thought you were on the wrong way.
That's her Beamer now. She goes there like every second Sunday or something with her friends, and it used to be that she would sit and she wouldn't be able to get up and dance. Right, so she would be sitting, she'd be watching all her friends. She's now at a point that she can get up and she can dance the full time she's there.
Wow.
She's not in pain. She doesn't struggle with her energy and her movements. Absolutely brilliant.
And to go from that quality of life where you're thinking, actually, I'm not going to be able to do these things as I get older and it's just going to get worse and I'm going to need to go for surgery, to actually go like that, right, okay, do you know what, I'm going to try and do something about it myself.
Yeah.
And do you know what, at 70 years old, not being a member of a gym before, how intimidating that could have potentially been. And to be able to go like that a year down the line, you're not just playing 6 weeks from now or 12 weeks from now, you're looking at the end game. And I always talk about start with the end in mind, and that's exactly what she did. Like, she went like that. Do you know what? If she came in and did her consultation, and we said, right, if you do this, and you do this with your protein, you do this with your strength training, you're regularly coming to curves, you're overloading your muscles in a really, really safe way that isn't putting too much stress on your joints, because that's what curves is. And you're doing that consistently using the same machines, repetition, then this is what's going to happen. And she went, do you know what? I'm going to do that.
She absolutely took it head on.
Yeah.
Like, rather than being like, right, these are the cards that I've got given in this, I'm just going to be in this pain, I'm just going to suffer, and that's the way it's going to be. Like, she took it and she was like, I can make something of this here.
Yeah.
And when you go, imagine if she had not done that.
Aye.
Where she could have been just now, post-knee replacement.
Yeah.
Like that recovery in rehab to that, when you've not been strength training, when you've not been looking after your own health, is a lot harder than if you had been training. So it could have been a really different story had you not just have introduced strength training into your life.
Right. And I think like that's great to talk about end result and coming back the way. But see if we maybe then actually jump to the front here for anybody that's maybe not doing strength training right now, or any female that's not doing strength training right now. There is so many, or are so many benefits to being able to be consistent with some sort of an exercise program. We spoke about this in the last podcast. But when you do strength training at a regular basis, you're helping maintain your bone density levels as you get older. You're ensuring that you're going to be strong, you're going to be fit, you're going to be healthy, you're going to be able to run around with your kids or your grandkids. It's about the quality of your life. It's like, don't get me wrong, having muscle is sexy. Right, let's not lie.
Really
it does. Even if you've got cellulite in your ass, if you get a wee bit of muscle attached to it, it's absolutely fine. But muscle does look good. But what it is going to do as we get older, like it blows my mind. It completely blows my mind. And I know a lot of people that are the same age as me.
Yes.
Right. And I know we've spoken about my age in like other podcasts that are the same age as me. And for me, I would probably say I'm a pretty strong person for my age. And I can give 20-year-olds a run for their money.
Oh, absolutely can.
Right. But I would say that has been because it's been 20 odd years of doing these consistent like exercises. But it doesn't need to be like that. Like, you can start now.
100%. And that's the thing, like, I think everyone thinks when they see someone potentially like you, Shivs, who is really strong, carries a good bit of muscle about them, they're just like, right, I'm never going to get like that, so I'm just not going to start. And it's like, that's a byproduct of consistency over a number of years, of course. But where could you be in 12 months if you just start? Imagine having 12 months worth of more muscle on your body, right? Where could you then be in 24 months? Yeah. The quality of life that you then get from that is massive. Like, if we think back to the club, you've got your likes of Sandra, who, yes, there's been an amazing physical result, but a lot of the benefits that she's got of being able to get down on the floor with her daughter at dancing and get back up without having issues with her knees, without having to grab onto stuff and no pain.
Yeah.
Those side of things are what's your life-changing part of it, and we're all in control of it.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really important thing. Like, we've all got our own responsibility to look after our own muscle.
Yeah, definitely.
Regardless of whether that's for an aesthetic result, or because it's you've got a wedding, you've got a bikini to get into, whatever that might be. That's great, right? That's a reward. But we're responsible for our health, and part of that is massive. The muscle that you carry as your health.
Exactly. So
yeah.
I think that it's lovely to hear you speaking about members that are in the gym. For you, Nats, what would you say the reason that you would find strength training so important for yourself?
I think for me, of course, the physical side of things has always been great, like the strength that comes from that, but the mental strength that I think you build as a result of strength training is huge. We spoke on previous podcasts like about your chimp and that inner voice within it. Strength training is a massive part of strengthening what's in here.
Yes.
And again, you're in control of that. Everyone's is, of course, totally different, and it's a different journey for everyone. But see if you can get consistent. It's a routine for this. It's in a sense of achievement, and you know that you're making progress. And I think for a lot of people, when we struggle with our mental health, or we find that a wee bit more challenging, it normally comes from, I'm failing, I'm lacking progress, I'm just not getting anything done, those sorts of things. And you go, see, when you take control of that and you tick those boxes, the benefits that come off the back of that mentally are huge. The added extra is some really lovely muscles in your body at the same time, which is great. But I do massively say that strength training is how I would medicate my own headspace.
Yeah, definitely.
Massively.
And if we were maybe to give some advice to some members around like strengthening their bodies, around how you could easily add stuff into your life that would benefit you, what do you think that we would be looking at some top tips around that?
I think the top tip when it comes to any form of like building your strength is number one, consistency.
Yeah.
Right? If you've got no consistency surrounding your training, you're not going to get any real strength benefits. So if you're barring out 4 sessions one week, you're then not training for the next 2 weeks, then you're maybe getting one in. You're like, right, I've got 5 sessions in that month. Like, your body responds when things are done consistently over a period of time.
Without a doubt.
Your body doesn't go, right, 30 days, I've done those 5 sessions, right, these are the benefits that I'm going to be able to give, all right. Your body goes day to day. So it's got to be able to have the consistency to get the benefit of actually stimulating those muscles. So consistency would be first and foremost. And no, you do not need to be back in 5 and 6 sessions every single week to be able to do that. I think everyone believes, and we talked about it on like series 3 or 4, like the extremes of the industry. Like, it's got to be that hard. See if you honestly for 12 weeks completed 3 strength training sessions every single week, the difference to your life would be huge.
Every bit of your life.
Like, honestly, everything would change. So I think that would be like, mine would be consistency, and also like being aware of like managing your expectations with your frequency of it at the same time. What would you say yours would be?
I would say that definitely consistency drives everything without a shadow of a doubt. I think that you absolutely need to preserve your muscle mass by eating enough protein. And I think like one of the great things about protein is even if you're not doing strength training and you're consuming enough protein, you can hold on to your muscles, right? You can hold on to your muscle mass. And if we can hold on to our muscle masses at times where we're maybe not able to strength train as often, we don't just say hit the effort button, right? You solve it. Like, you don't. It's not like you're doing everything and nothing. I think that if you can make sure that you're consuming enough protein, and when I talk about protein, my recommendation with protein is always as natural sources as you can get, right? You want to be able to nourish your body at the same time as getting your protein in. Chicken, fish, meat, dairy, beans, legumes, pulses, all of those amazing things. What is it I say? If it ran in the earth, it swam in the sea, you can pluck it from the earth or pull it from a tree, eat as much of your diet from that as you possibly can. So I would say like your protein definitely, but I think, see, like just to kind of circle back to what you said about frequency, it's about not going to the gym and doing something different every single time that you go in, because your muscles respond to doing things repetitively. So you're stimulating the same muscles over and over and over again. And I think that especially as we get that wee bit older, and like building muscle does get a little bit harder as your hormones start to change. As we start to see reductions in things like estrogen and progesterone, and especially testosterone, which, by the way, girls, in case you don't know, you have got it in your body. As we start to get a wee bit older, it is harder to build it, but you can still maintain it.
And I think this is huge, and it's where you go, there's so much work should be getting done in those ages of like that 30 to 40 area where your hormones, for the majority, because we all know that hormones are more more person specific than age.
Oh yes, definitely.
There's that period that you've got this great opportunity that, see if you got ahead of the game, you can set yourself up brilliantly. What is then going to happen? And there's so many people that I think we come into contact with daily that when they start to get the results, they go, I wish I'd done this sooner. I just think you never want to get to that point in your life where you're maybe struggling, right, to get out of your bed, or those tasks that you once took for granted, being able to play with your kids, your grandkids, whoever that might be, is now really difficult. And you go, see, if I'd taken action 5 years earlier, this story could have been totally different.
So I guess the message that we're saying is, girls, if you are listening, or boys, if you're listening also, because we might have a few guys, we might have a few guys listening, is look after your vessel. Maintain your muscle mass, be consistent with it. It doesn't need to be balls to the wall all the time. It just needs to be consistent. That's it in a nutshell, isn't it?
And at the end of the day, remember, your body is your responsibility, no one else's.
Yeah, definitely. So we wanted to kind of talk about, we looked at physical strength there. And we wanted to kind of talk about then mental strength for females, or for anybody in fact, in that matter. And I think that when we were chatting, like when we decided to record this podcast and we were writing this episode, we wanted to really speak about alcohol and the effects that alcohol have on mental strength or mental health?
Yeah. I think the big thing to remember when it comes to like looking at alcohol, like it's a depressant on your system. Like that naturally is going to cause havoc when it comes to your headspace.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to look at it as more than just going on a night out and having a good time, more than, it was only a couple of drinks with my pals, by no manner of means am I saying like every single person should stop drinking, right?
No.
You've got to live your life. But I think it's important that you understand the impacts that it has on you in a negative capacity.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because we look at the front side of it, socialising with your pals, having a good time, all that kind of stuff. But when we look at it being then like a depressant in the system, as soon as you've put that into your body, you're then paying the effects for that, depending on the individual, for a period of days.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like the big thing with alcohol, see from a personal experience, I don't tolerate it well, right? Like I'm not even going to lie to you, I'm a shit show. And I'm fine 1 minute and then I'm falling asleep at a table at the next minute, and it's no the person that I want to be. And I think it's so easy to get caught up in the moment of alcohol. Like it is, it's fun. I would say that in my younger years, like something that I used to, like the Shivsy smile would come out, and I'd just be like drunk and I'd just be smiling at everyone, and that was fine, but that was the cue to get her home. And I remember I used to be like mortified because it didn't align with the person that I want to be. And I would say, see, as I've got older, my tolerance levels have got worse. Like I don't tolerate it as well, even worse than what I did when I was younger, and I started to research that. And as your hormones start to change, the way your body metabolises alcohol, especially as then like you start going into your perimenopause or menopausal years, how your body metabolises alcohol changes, your tolerance levels change, and then as a direct effect to that, if you think about what that is then doing for your mental health. Now, something that I looked into today, because it really interested me, I read this study years ago around suicide rates after alcohol consumption. And I couldn't remember the stats of it, so I'd written them down for today's episode. And 70% of men and 40% of women who have attempted suicide have had blood alcohol levels higher than the legal limit. Now, if we think about alcohol as the good time guy at the front here, but 70% of men and 40% of women that have attempted suicide have had alcohol in their system. There's huge weight in that. There's huge weight in that.
But if you think as soon as you made a really valid point of saying like it doesn't align with the person that you want to be. So you go on a night out, you start having a few drinks, straight away you're not the same person that you are when you're sober. Right? So your decision making then starts to become very, very different. So even when you're going out and you're like, look, I'm just going to have a couple, as soon as you've had that couple, you're then getting tested a lot more on whether you're going to stick to what you said. Say like any form of alcohol will dull like the frontal lobe of your brain, which is responsible for your decision making. So straight away you're like, I'll just stay out.
I'll just have another one.
Right, so that other drink turns into another, before you've got yourself in a position that you are completely nowhere near the person that you want to be. In your case, you call it Shivsy or sleeping at a table, whatever you want to put, right? But you then have that. So what then happens, you then get home, you wake up the next morning and you then have this battle of trying to remember the last thing you remember. And then you're trying to join the dots together. And that's where that whole fear and anxiety for a lot of people then starts to come into play. Now, even anyone with the greatest headspace is going to find that a battle. And I think this is why you can see such big numbers of alcohol still being left in the system when suicide has happened, because for anyone that could go from saving out on a Saturday, a Sunday to a Wednesday of going, what happened? I've got the fear, I can't open a message, I can't look that person in the eye, I can't even go into my camera roll here to see what's happening. And at that point, depending on how much has been consumed, your decision making is still going to be dulled at that point while you're battling all of that. So you can see how it can have such a negative impact on the flip side of what you thought was going to be a really good night out. if you're not in control of that, and if you're not in control and in touch with your headspace, that inner voice, whatever you might want to call it, you can see why there's extreme decisions made.
Oh,
off the
100%.
back of it.
100%. And I think that, don't get us wrong. Like, I'm not saying that I won't have a drink. Like, I don't drink every weekend. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that either. But I think that it's wildly important to think, like, see if you are struggling day to day with your mental health, and what's happening is exactly what you said, going out on a Saturday, rough on a Sunday, no feeling great on a Monday. Tuesday, you're kind of starting to feel a bit better. Wednesday, you're feeling a wee bit more like yourself. Thursday's a good day, Friday's a good day, and then you repeat the cycle again. That's 5 days that you're feeling a bit ropey, and it's consistent, and you can see why these rates of poor mental health are increasing. And I would say that, a big challenge is that there's actually nothing for people to do in Scotland, unless it's going to the pub or going and throwing yourself up a Monroe and then going for a pint at the bottom.
Yeah,
like, even or very little, sorry.
Yeah, even most of the exercise things that you do, like when we do a High Rocks, there's always a group chat of where we're going after it, what's the night out after it. And I think like it is great, and by no manner of means are we saying don't socialise, but I think you've got to be in tune with yourself to ask yourself the question, right, I'm going out. Am I going to drink? Am I not going to drink?
Yeah.
Right, okay, I'm going to have some drinks. To what extent am I willing for that to go?
Yeah.
Because this is what I've got on that next week. Right? I'm willing that I'll take the hit for no feeling that great, and I'm happy with that. Or you go, do you know what? I can't afford to lose my Monday, my Tuesday, or my Wednesday. I'm actually not going to drink. And this is something I think about quite a lot. Like, I battle that inner voice within my head. That chimp is out its cage as much as it can be when you've had a drink, right? It is wild. So for me, if I'm going to go out and I'm going to go, right, am I going to drink or am I going to drive?
Yeah.
And I'll go, right, do you know what? I've not had a drink in quite a while. I've not been out with these people in quite a while. I'm going to have a few drinks.
Yeah.
And then you go, right, how's my Monday shaping up?
Yeah.
How's my Tuesday shaping up? And all of a sudden you're like, shit, actually,
I'm not doing that.
I am setting myself up for a disaster.
Yeah.
And a lot of people might think that is like boring. Oh, you've got to live your life. You've got to have a good time, right?
Let's get the rest there.
Just one more drink. But I think it's really important that you're confident in identifying that and being able to be like, do you know what? That's not going to serve me, or it's not going to value you.
Yeah.
And see that person that might be pulling your leg going, oh, just have one.
Yeah.
Don't be boring. Guaranteed you. See, come Monday night,
they're going to be washing
position them what they are, right? And I think it's just been self-assured of knowing what your body needs when you're potentially in circles that are trying to pull you in lots of different directions.
I think it's like really valuable what you're saying there about like being pulled in different directions by the circles that you're in as well. And I think that your friends will never force you to do something. So see if you're the pal that says to your pal, just have a drink, can't you just let them do their thing? Like, they will still have a great time and they'll still be great and they'll still be good to be around. It's you. Like, it's
huge.
It's honestly, it's fine to let people do their thing. And I think that there's probably a challenge a wee bit when it comes to society and accepting it. And it's the only drug on the planet that you're openly getting forced to push because it's so well accepted. And I just think there's something in that. So if you're the person that's no drinking, or you say, I don't want to go out and drink, and you feel like you're being forced by your friends, then stay strong. But see, if you're the pal that's strong-arming your pal to get pushed and she or he doesn't want it, it's going to wrap it. Just wrap it, right? Don't be that guy.
I think it hits the nail on the head in what we're chatting about of, does alcohol actually help you connect or disconnect?
Oh my God, aye.
Right, and like as you go out with your friend group, because you're like, right, we're going to socialise, we're going to have a good time, we're going to catch up. And I do think for the first 90 minutes there's an element of that where you've all got like a wee drink in you, you've got a wee bit of
wee
buzz, and you're like chatting away, and that's brilliant. But I genuinely believe, see, after that kind of 90-minute, 2-hour mark is absolute disconnection after that, because nobody remembers what they're doing.
Aye. And I think as well, it's the kind of sloppiness that comes with it. Everybody's hanging over each other and you're shouting, and just like you are disconnecting, not even from each other, like, because you are disconnecting from each other, but you're disconnecting potentially from yourself. And I think like with anything that we take away who we actually are, there's some negatives that can be attached to that. There really are.
A lot of people use it to mask like being the person that they think they actually are, because it gives them that confidence front.
I think we've spoken a few times to a few people that have felt that way, like I can't go out and have a night out because I wouldn't be as fun without having a drink. And like, I know that I've been in social situations that I knew if I had a drink I'd probably have had more to say, and I felt like, do you know what, actually, like, this would have maybe been a wee bit easier if I had a few drinks.
Okay.
And I know that for a fact, but that doesn't make me go like that. Do you know what, I'm patching the car and I'm going to go because these conversations are coming easier.
This is true.
It makes me circle back to the thing that you said about just the thought of what could potentially happen. See, when you work in a member-facing role, you can't be all effed up, man. You absolutely can't. And see, like, your emotions, like, they're no right.
First and foremost, though,
What?
there is nothing more fearful than a member on a Monday morning going, I seen you in the train on Saturday, and you go, did I get a train home on Saturday? What? Right, so I think, like, we joke about that, but that is
so
that
true.
element of it.
So
And
true.
I think there's an element when you're in such a customer facing role that, like, you are a role model to so many people that you do want to be able to lead by example. And I think that's something that, like, we both value within ourselves, is that, like, if you're going to talk the talk, you've got to be willing to walk the walk at the end of the day. And sometimes that is known when not getting absolutely
Hammered.
Guess what? I don't know what was coming to me there. I was struggling to just say,
He was coming, I could tell.
and not doing that serves you. I'll tell you what, see, sometimes driving, being there for that 90 minutes while everybody's getting a wee buzz about them, and then
go home at your pajamas.
enjoy your night, and an early night, looking in a group chat the next day and going, oh my God, I feel great.
Yes.
Everyone else is like dying inside. But
Getting up, going for a run, loving life. And the next day actually being like, do you know what? I pure enjoyed my Sunday.
how good is a Sunday?
How good is a Sunday?
I say
Definitely.
this all the time. I think you really value that time. And roughness is time lost, no matter what way that you look at it.
It is definitely, because again, like, see if you think about also like what it then the negative effects, especially see if you're someone that's trying to get a physical result, like when you're going to the gym, say for talking's sake. We have all been there, right? So out on the Saturday night,
Yep.
I'm just going to stick to the gins, 10 cocktails later. And then you wake up in the morning and you're hanging and you lie in your couch all day, and then you go out for dinner or whatever you do, and then you get all the munchies, and then you don't sleep that well that night because you ate a load of rubbish and your body's like hanging for the alcohol consumption. And then you wake up the next day and you haven't prepped your meals, and then before you know it,
It just absolutely spirals.
Aye, it does. It definitely spirals. So prep your meals before you go.
You should have got your food in first, and therefore delete just eat off your phone as well, so that doesn't come into play. I think we talked about something there about, does alcohol help you connect or does it help you disconnect? And one of the biggest reasons we wanted to start this podcast was because there is a real lack of connection out there in the world.
Yeah.
You touch base on, it's really hard to have things to do in kind of Scottish culture that doesn't revolve around about alcohol.
Yeah.
As you say, whether it go on a night out, whether it be chuck yourself up a Monroe and then go to the pub straight after it, do a high rocks, and then you end up in a night out. And we are really lacking connection without that being a thing.
Yeah.
And we wanted an opportunity to be able to bring groups of females together to actually just be able to connect authentically as themselves, not with 2 glasses of Prosecco in it because they feel a wee bit more confident. And I think I'm massively excited for what's going to be from this as a result of it, because there are going to be so many of you guys that listen that can massively resonate with everything we're chatting about today and going, oh my God, like, are they talking directly to me? So I think the big thing is any form of that connection that we can create off the back of it.
Yeah.
Get yourself involved, because we'll all be on the water.
Yeah.
But it brings us on connection and female as a whole. What do you think the importance of female connection is, Shivs?
Oh, wow. That's a big question, I would say, Nats.
Definitely wasn't written down.
No, it's fine. No. Connection for women, it's everything. right, I would say that one of the saddest things that I've heard being a coach is the words, "I don't know who I am anymore." And I hear that so much from mums.
Yeah.
And it's usually mums of teenagers that I hear that from. And their kids no longer need them. FYI, they will always need you, right?
Always.
Always. But I don't know who I am anymore. And what I see happening with this kind of like mum of teenagers is they, for the past 12 to 15 years, they have completely immersed themselves in looking after their children, which is amazing. There's nothing bad about that. But to the point that they're working, they're taking their kids to all the clubs, they're looking after their clubs, they're running their house, and then there is zero left for them at the end of it. And it's been this vicious cycle for so long. And then the kids come up and they start going out with their friends and doing all that kind of stuff, and they're left and they're on their own in their house and like, what do I like? Who am I? Like, I've just spent 13 to 15 years looking after somebody else, and I actually feel a bit lost here. And I think that that's when I think about why it's really, really important for us to probably try and create something with the Sisterhood Circle that isn't just about like women coming along. It's about women can bring your kids along. So like, we need to be better at like being inclusive of each other and creating space and maybe creating like spaces.
And there's so much to it, because you've hit the nail on the head with females become so disconnected from themselves that they've got to be able to connect with themselves. But I think on that journey of, for a lot of people, bringing kids into the world and bringing them up, when they're first born, there's like newborn groups that you go to, there's toddlers that then make connections with other people through school friends. But then sees their kids start to get to that secondary point, and as you start to give them a little bit more independence, tends to be when your connection to other females starts to pull back. Because if you've maybe not got an established circle at that point, you've maybe not got a solid group, all of a sudden, not only do you feel that your kids are like, up now, steal later on.
Show now. You're not cool for the next 5 years.
I'll tell you what, man. I would never think that, mum, if you're watching.
Me either.
Would you?
My mum's my bestie.
Oh, I can't wait for me to come home.
Phone her like 10 times a day.
Yeah.
She's like, what is it?
Honestly, see, one of the most amazing things to be able to do is like phone your mum.
Oh, so lucky to do it.
It's like, it's amazing to do. I remember when I first came back from like Dubai, my mum and dad lived away for a period of time, driving home and phoning her, and I'd be like, hi. She'd be like, what's up? And I'd be like, just wanted to talk to you. What's up? And I do it every night, and sometimes you can tell she's like, hiya, pal. And I'm like, are you bored of me? But anyway, digressing there. So yeah, as they start to then become so connected in the world, you kind of are quite disconnected from other groups if you've not established something for yourself. I think that's where it's so powerful that there is that space for women to absolutely connect and thrive. I think it's something that we see in the gym day in, day out. And so when you see connections flourish, friendships be made, people doing things they would never have done because they've got somebody to do it with, the world genuinely needs so much more of it, because it's how we thrive as people, is being connected. And we're in a world just now that disconnects in so many ways. Any form of like physical interaction, like face to face.
How much do I touch people? I am the most tactile person in the whole entire world. And do you know what it is? I know that, see, physical touch and intimacy, whether it be looking at somebody in the eye when you're talking to them, it produces a hormone called oxytocin. And oxytocin is the human connection love hormone. And when we live in a society that is on a screen, through a message, sometimes on the phone, we are lacking so much physical connection. And oxytocin it just calms your nervous system. It makes you feel good. It's what we're meant to have. Like, I will hug trees. And by the way, hugging trees is great. I'm only kidding on. I'm actually not kidding on, but that's a story for another podcast. and one with nature. Listen, I'll talk to you about this after and why, but we'll put this on another...
As for just now, just hug all your pals.
Hug all your pals.
It really does give those the absolute feel-good hormone when you're just connected with people. And I think one of the things we popped in to chat about today is how disconnected we were during COVID.
Aye.
And the negative impacts that came off that. I think everyone's experience was totally different.
Yeah.
But if we learned anything from that, it was how connected we need to be.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, we went from seeing anywhere from 180 to 200 females
a day
every single day to, for me, being in the house by myself.
Aye. And see that for you, Nats, that must have been, like, for anybody that doesn't know, Nats, like, lived in, how long have you been in your flat? 5 years? 6 years? 7 years?
7,
because you were in your flat before I moved into my new house.
Yes, I was 20 turning 21 when I came out.
So for you, like, to go from that was a big thing.
Yeah.
It was like you being in work and seeing people all the time, to go from that to being completely isolated and actually being told, like, you're bad if you go outside. Like,
there was so much guilt attached to it, but I think at the same time, like, it was absolute loneliness. Like, see, just, even though this sounds mad, but I was a pure supermarket tart.
Aye, you were.
Like, I took you can go to the shop once a day, legitimately.
I like every shop once every day.
I go to like Morrison's just so, and I would wait. I would not go to self scanner. I would stand in my line and I would look my turn. I'd be like, "Hi, how's your day been?"
With your mask.
Person's got her mask. She's mental.
Aye.
But I just really thrived. Well, I do thrive off of chatting to people, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love helping people fill their cup.
Yeah.
But in turn, that massively fills my cup. And I think during lockdown, I really struggled with my cup was empty because something that really filled mine of that interaction with people wasn't there.
Yeah.
I would say that the longer that went on, the more I battled that voice inside my head of that chimp, like, there was no cage in lockdown, man. That thing was living freely in my head.
It was quite a hard thing to witness. Yeah, as well. Like, your mum and dad were obviously living in Dubai, which was absolutely massive for you. Like, Stuart for me was at his work every day, so I was like a puppy at the door waiting for him to come in. Like, what, Dad? I made food. I got things. Yeah, it's amazing. Good housewife when you've got time. But to circle back to you, sorry. Your brother at the time was working for Boots as a pharmacy, and he was an absolute rule follower. And you want to remember when they gave you a bubble?
Oh, I get sunny outside. Absolutely. I would never say I use this word in life, but it's what I imagine being scunnered to feel like. I was just like, I just want to be around people. You could be around people in the garden. I remember being like, right, Sean, so do you want to have like a wee barbecue this weekend? We'll have like a few drinks and stuff. And he was like, no, I've got rules to follow. Like, I'm working the front line. And honestly, like, my brother is not a real follower, right? It was the first time in his life. And I remember being like, are you kidding me on? And I spoke to my mum about it, and she was like, you've got to respect that. And in my head at that point, I was like, nobody actually knows how I feel. Yeah. Just want a person. I remember I was like, right, well, if I can't get Sean, I'm going to get the next best thing. So I was like, up to their house, where was to install the dogs. Brought them down, and then I ended up like chatting to you that day and stuff like that. And see, just having that bit of connection that day, albeit people could maybe say you shouldn't have been talking to someone else in a garden and all that, but that for me, I genuinely believe was a point that like I was like, right, this is going to be okay. Yeah, seen people like I can get through that, and I'm so grateful that was only for lockdown for me. Yeah, but for so many people, that can be their everyday life. Yeah, and I think that when we talk about, to circle right back to longevity, the risk associated with not preserving your muscle mass and not preserving your mental health is maybe that as you get older, you can't get out the house. And see, the thought of that's terrifying. It's so sad for people that's what they potentially be having to live. Yeah. So to kind of flip that back the way, if you can do anything right now to look after your mental health and your physical health, should. And connect with other people, like pick up the phone to your people, pop round and see them. We're all busy, right? But do you know what? Like, time stands still for no man. That was 5 years ago this month that happened, that kicked off. I mean, that's
Remember they told us we could do 1 walk a day? I mean, you walked 10 miles every day and went for an Easter egg most of it.
Easter eggs to teach your lockdown.
I
That's my
was an
favourite
Easter
thing that I
egg.
bought
Yeah.
at the shop every single day. But yeah, you did. And when you look at that, right, and that's a really valid point, getting outside. So during lockdown, we all struggled, and we struggled with that connection.
Yeah.
But we then identified what you had to do to fill your cup.
Yeah.
You had to get outside. You had to be active.
Yeah.
You had to get your sunlight in. You had to get your fresh air, because you knew that was the bare minimum that you could do for your own physical and mental health at that time. And had that not have been getting done at the same point of struggling, like, it would have been so much harder.
Yeah.
But I think, to circle back, this is the same when we kind of go off.
Are we circling back?
We're circling back.
Or Sisterhood circling
By
back?
the way, good job. That's quite clever.
well,
I'm going to steal that circle back. Right?
Yeah,
That'll be the thing.
You knocked it?
Knocked it. No,
Okay.
I'll share it.
Okay.
Is that you've got to be connected,
Yeah.
right? And you've got to put yourself into groups of, in this situation, females that have got your absolute back. Because see, the effect that I had when I put myself into a more social situation there, when I was really struggling, was I was uplifted.
Yeah.
I was reassured. I knew that it wasn't going to last forever. I knew that it was going to be all right. See, when people are struggling day to day just now, and they're not in those pockets, they're struggling in their own head for long periods of time.
Yeah.
If you can be surrounded by groups of females that have your back, they're going to remind you that you can do it. They're going to be your biggest cheerleader and letting you know that that tough time will pass.
And there is groups like that out there, and we, like, this is the vision. Like, we want to be that group. We want to create pockets, not just all over Ayrshire or Glasgow, or we want to do it all over the world.
Pretty much, we just want to hang out with you also.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. So let's start doing that immediately.
and I think that puts us on to how important your circle is,
Wow.
and the great things that can come from it, but what you need to be aware of
Definitely.
in it as well.
So I think we called this bit "Be aware of your circle" or "Beware."
I cannot remember that there for that item.
But this is so true. And I think that the first thing that I wanted to talk about is, have you ever just been around someone that is friggin' sunshine? You just walk in, their smile lights up the room, they are a vibe, you engage with them, you look at them and you're just like, you are my person. And then you leave and you just feel good. Aye. Now, that is an energy giver, right? And everybody needs one of them in their life. 10 of them, actually. You need 10. The more, the better. So if you're thinking about becoming an energy giver, do it.
Absolutely.
Flip
side is.
Yeah. If you are aware of going into an environment or with a person and you go and you feel like you are completely drained or zapped by them, that could be that they are energy vampires. That's what we would call them. And I think it's being aware of that. Now, this being said, right, and I think it's really, really important to touch on this. Not everybody's going to be sky high all the time. And sometimes people need you to be the giver of energy. So I'm not saying that energy vampires are negative, right? Because everybody has those days where they're here and they need to, that they need to be brought up. But it's being aware of what you are, because like we said earlier on, is it's your choice for the language that you talk and the conversations that you have. And even if you are a bit lower, being aware that you can bring your vibration up by changing your thought processes and changing your words and changing your actions, and maybe being around someone that's frequencies a wee bit higher.
I think that's
than your own.
huge, because see, when you are around someone that's energy is at a totally different frequency from yours, they're sunshine in a person, you look at them and you're like, oh, they're just like that person. See, when you're having a slightly challenging time and you're struggling to get yours up, the other kind of people you do want to be around, because you meet their energy. Right? You'll come up to that. And I think that you've hit the nail on the head. It doesn't just because you're maybe an energy vampire. We all have those days where we are.
100%.
There's just, I'll message you and I'll be like, by the way, sorry if I was a wee bit meh here, right? Like, and it's just because you're so aware of that. But see if you can get a balance where you're in a circle that are going to be the majority of those energy givers, but you know on that day that you're maybe going to be a wee bit more of the vampire, that they're going to bring you up and that you're going to be able to bring them up when they're having those days is massive. You've got to have each other's back. And I think we talk all the time about your circle being so powerful and being aware of who you're surrounding it by.
Yeah.
But making sure that those people are actually your people, and when you walk away from them, they're still going to have your back. They're not going to be the first group that are going to be like, oh, I see her today, what was wrong with that?
Yeah.
And start that other conversation with you, because I think that leads into the other side of circles where it can be so negative all the time, because as soon as you walk away from the table, you're the topic of conversation instead.
And I think like one of the things for me is my body, like I do not enjoy talking about people. Like it's not my it's not my thing. It doesn't sit well. I would rather be at a table full of people talking about ideals and visions and all that kind of stuff. And I think that, like from an internal point of view, if there's a conversation that's being had that you're maybe not comfortable with, you're retrieving back for that. But how easy is that to do that if you're not self-assured? And if you're not like sure of the person that you are and the vision that you have for yourself, you can get very easily dragged or manipulated into it. And then it becomes a very negative circle that you're in.
Yeah, I think we speak about this sometimes, like in your younger years when you're not quite as sure of yourself and you're thinking at this point that your circle needs to be huge. The bigger the circle, the better that it's going to be. I always think the majority of the time, not all the time, the bigger the circle, the more talking is likely going to be going on at that table at points. And I think there's something to be said for keeping your circle that little bit smaller, but just having them your absolute solid people that the only talking you're ever going to do is about how bloody amazing someone's doing. Right? And then you talk about it and you're like, do you want to just actually send that person a message because they are rocking live? Your circle doesn't need to be huge. Yeah. Right? You would rather have 3 people that have got your absolute back at 3 o'clock in the morning when you really need them, as we talk about when shit hits the fan and you're bawling your eyes out, than 33 people that are your friend to your face, but behind your back would be really, really different.
Yeah. And I think it's just being aware of that, and just being aware, like, if you're in situations where people are always talking about each other, we're going to be the topic of conversation somewhere. And do you know what? That's fine if that's what you want. That's absolutely fine. But see, if it's not what you want, just be assured of yourself to say, do you know what? I'm just moving away from that.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely fine. I would love it if we could maybe talk a wee bit more about how we can keep our physical health and our mental health in check for everybody going forward.
Yeah, so I would say if I was to look at my top tips for keeping my physical and my mental health in check, would be number 1, fill my own cup. Make sure that there is something every single week that is cup filling. For me, from a mental side of things, tends to be exercise the majority of the time, I must say. Tip number 2 would be exercise consistently and make sure you get the frequency of that down. If you want to feel better physically and mentally, doing it 5 times one week, 1 time the next week isn't going to be able to cut it. And top tip number 3 would be nutritionally. Don't underestimate the impact the nutrition that you're putting in your body is having on your energy physically and what you're able to put out, but it's having in your energy mentally, and it's causing that to drain right down.
Yeah. I think that those, they're absolutely amazing. That's it.
Yes. What would yours be?
Outdoors.
Yeah.
Outdoors is absolutely huge, specifically as close to nature as you can get. I think like that's wildly important. I think that fresh air, sunlight, oxygen, silence, all of those things, see for your mental health. I think when I was up at the course up in Hill, Scotland in Skye, up with Lilia, she'd said that like if you go outdoors and specifically into like the forest, there's a 70% increase in your fighter cells in your body. Wow. Right? So these are like the thought of that is just absolutely wild. 70% increase by getting outdoors. So I think that that's like all your healing is happening like when you're outdoors. And if you think about it, like if you think about like the frequency, like the forest emits, it's healing frequencies. So see if you're not feeling great mentally, being able to get outside in nature, it's healing you, which is just absolutely amazing. So getting outside, Another really great tip for like boosting your mental health is doing things that you never thought you were going to be able to do. Like pushing yourself, and like, see, when it comes to going to the gym and doing strength training, maybe like progressing that wee bit extra, like that kind of thing, or running a wee bit faster, or just doing a wee task. I think that can make a big difference. But I wanted to kind of circle back a little bit on nutrition when it comes to like being strong mentally. A lot of the time that we think that we're putting food into our body, that it isn't actually affecting our mental health, when actually on a huge level it is. 50% of dopamine is metabolised in your gut, and 90% of serotonin is metabolised in your gut. Literally what you are eating is feeding the microbes that create these hormones in your gut. So if you're eating a lot of shit and you're feeling a lot of shit, if you could change that a wee tiny bit,
the difference that comes from it is huge.
Let your gut do its thing. It's like trying to heal you. It's trying to create these hormones that make you feel amazing. So I think like that would be a big part of it. And be around your people. See your sunshine givers, the people that you're just like, oh my God, you just fill me with love. Try and get around them. I spoke to a life coach actually last year, and she had said to me, her name was Jenny, and she was like that. I had been feeling maybe like a little bit mentally drained at that point. And she was like, what fills you up? And I had said, my cousin Donna. She was like, when was the last time you saw her? And I was like, I don't know. And I'd said like about seeing our boys. I'm like, I'm just so busy. And I remember, I think maybe a few days later, getting in touch with Donna and going for a walk with her and seeing the boys, and genuinely phoned Jenny, and I was like, you are so right.
Yeah.
That's what that is. So you're never, like, I know that we all get busy, but don't forget to fill your cup up with your people, your wee energy, like your energy givers.
Massive.
Defo. So those would be my top tips there.
Perfect.
So I think
that really rounds us up
for today.
Episode 5.
My God. Done and dusted, just like that.
Just like that.
So, girls, boys, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you for the final episode coming really soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.